I'm Renee, a retired educator turned wine bar conversationalist. Welcome back to Conversations Over Wine, where wisdom is poured and stories are shared. Each week, I ask that we slow down, pour a glass, and talk about life's lessons, aging with intention, and what really matters as we grow older. I am so glad you're here. Let's begin. Well, first I'm going to start out with a little story. So today is February 16th, 2026. So on Saturday, we had Valentine's Day. And if you've listened to some of my other episodes talking about dating yourself, then this will tie in well with that. So for Valentine's, I actually worked on Galentine's, which was Friday, and then Valentine's Day, which was Saturday. So I decided I would celebrate Valentine's a few days early just to fit my work schedule. So I thought about what I wanted to eat and how I wanted the evening to go. So what I did is I dated myself that evening. I cooked myself a steak just like I like it. So I made it medium rare, and I made myself a nice baked potato. Had some cucumber for a vegetable because I love cucumbers. And I enjoyed a couple of glasses of a red Bordeaux. Listened to Mary of Gold because I've really gotten into her music lately. It's very soulful and I don't know, just really resonates with me. So I listened to some good music, ate a great meal, and enjoyed my evening and celebrated my own Valentine's with myself. I wrapped the evening up with my all-time favorite movie, which I have also referenced in another episode when we were talking about our word for the year. And I talked about that movie because she used the word attraversiamo. And so I watched that movie, as it is my favorite, on my Valentine's evening. So just a reminder, it's okay to date yourself on Valentine's Day or any other day of the year. So I just thought I'd start with that little story today, just so you guys know I don't just talk about those things, I do live them. And another little topic I wanted to bring up before we get into today's topic is tomorrow is the beginning of the year of the fire horse. I've also mentioned that before, and I don't know, I've really put some thought into that and been thinking about what that means. And so it is the beginning of, the Lunar New Year, and there's a lot of traditions and beliefs that go into it. But one of the things I did today that was recommended was I wrote down the things I needed to release before tomorrow in order to let the fire horse in. And so I did. I wrote down some things that I needed to let go of, and then I burned that. I burned all of that away, put it in the trash, and we'll actually take out the trash today because some of the recommendations for the first day of that Lunar New Year is to not take out the trash or not to clean or get rid of anything, because that was all supposed to have been done before. So anywho, I'm looking forward to the year of the fire horse. It really sets well with me, and it really fits with where I am in my life right now, and that is releasing a lot of the old patterns, old behaviors, old beliefs, old lives, all of those things I needed to let go of, and moving in with momentum to this new year. So super excited about that. But I'm going to go ahead and get into what I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to share a couple little quick stories with you. So I have a little bit of a confession about something that has been going on with me for actually kind of the last couple of years, just gradually, a little bit at a time. And it's really kind of gathered momentum over the last 6 months. You know what I've been craving? I've really been craving things that don't ping, notify, or need a charger. I've really been craving, as I have mentioned before, just slower pace and just kind of, I don't know, old schooling my life a little bit. And so I've really been checking in with that and making sure that I'm feeding that part of myself that's really wanting to kind of slow down. But it really got me curious. And so on social media, as I've begun to follow some new people that kind of fit with where I am in my life now, I've noticed quite a few people are kind of on that same journey. I've noticed more people talking about vinyl records and handwritten notes, analog bags, even flip phones. And so I started asking myself, are we tired? Are we overstimulated? Are we done being constantly online and connected? So today I want to explore something that feels quietly powerful to me, and that is the return of the analog. So of course I went to ChatGPT to do a little research about this, and according to ChatGPT, what the analog movement is, at its core, the analog movement is a cultural reaction to digital saturation. Let that sink in. Wow. It's about choosing physical, hands-on activities over digital ones. People are intentionally engaging in practices that don't involve screens, apps, or automated feeds. It's as much about what you are gaining, like presence, mindfulness, creativity, as well as what you are stepping away from, which is, the algorithm loops, the constant notifications, the constant connection, a lot of times to things that we really don't even know, or people we don't really know. So experts are calling it analog revival or analog living. And it's beginning to appear everywhere from crafts, music, to lifestyle, wellness discussions. And so I was really interested in that definition, and I started thinking more about it. I was like, well, what all are these activities that people are doing? And, there's film photography, and Polaroids instead of smartphone shots that are being taken. People are beginning to play more vinyl records and use their turntables for music. It seems more people are wanting to write in journals and, express themselves and make lists and, put their thoughts down, writing letters and just keeping notebooks. Another mindful tactile activity that it seems more people are being involved in are things like knitting, crocheting, needlepoint, puzzles, board games, printmaking, all of those hobbies that are more hands-on. And to me, I also think of them as a lot quieter, a lot more peaceful activities. And those are all activities you can do alone or with somebody if you choose. And as I mentioned earlier about an analog bag, I thought that was really interesting. So that seems to be picking up momentum also, is that people are carrying totes or creating these totes that are filled with the analog objects like books, pencils, crosswords, knitting, film cameras. And some people are carrying these instead of their phone, just as a way to prevent the endless scrolling, or to kind of, just relax and unwind. There's also something called analog rooms, and where people are, creating them in their homes. And that room is deliberately screen free. They might put their turntable in there to listen to their vinyl, have bookshelves in there to house all their books, and maybe a board game closet. Some people even have typewriters in there. All of those things to foster relaxation and real connection. And also, creativity, tapping into that. I find all of that really interesting. And the why? We know we have digital fatigue. We're also seeking more authentic experiences. The last 10 years or so have just been so connected and so digital, and just so tapped into all of these other things. And, many people are living much more stressful lives. So maybe that's part of it too. Looking for something quiet and relaxing to, help them reconnect with themselves and their environment, and to slow down and disconnect. You think about how many people, their job is constant digital connection all day long. That would definitely be conducive to digital fatigue. We're surrounded by it everywhere. And all of this is not meant to say we would just do away with technology. I don't want to just do away with technology. But maybe more as like just an awareness, and for us to find a sense of balance, where yes, you can have your technology. We have to in today's world, but maybe just be aware and find ways to slow down and tap back into analog. And if you're close to my age, I'm in my 50s, we lived an analog childhood. We lived an analog, 20s. And, I didn't even get my first cell phone, I think, until I was about 28 or so. And then I think I got my first social media, which was Facebook. Oh, gosh. My youngest daughter, who is 21, I think she was probably about 3, so about 18 years ago or so. And, I really love this. I really do. I think it is needed in our culture. I do. I think we need to take a step back and look at how much all of this digital fatigue is affecting us. And what are some of the stats that support that? I wanted to know that. I was like, is this really happening? I know how it's happening in my life, but is it just that I'm following certain people that are doing it, or is it really going on? But through my research, I found that, like vinyl, for example, that vinyl sales have had a continuous year-over-year growth for nearly 2 decades. And lately there's been huge unit sales and market shares. And something else interesting is that younger buyers, 18 to 44, are a major force in this analog media renaissance. It's not like the older generation. More younger people are suffering from digital fatigue. That's not really all that surprising. But also there's been, they've been tracking some of the online hashtags where people are, searching for different things like analog hobbies and jigsaw puzzles and hashtags for crocheting, all of those different hobbies that we've been talking about. There's more and more of that going on. More people are searching for that. And, myself, personally, just a few of the things that I have been doing that would fit this narrative. I am a reader. I love to read books. And so, but when my kids were younger, I just didn't have as much time to read as I wanted to. But, now that I'm semi-retired and I enjoy that quiet, peaceful time, I am doing more and more reading. I'm also doing more and more journaling. I'm also, stepping back in that area from digital fatigue. I'm writing. I'm even just making lists each day of, what I'm going to get done that day, or just thoughts that are in my head. Jigsaw puzzles, I have one out right now. We would do them sometimes on vacation when I was still raising my daughters, but other than that, we just didn't always have time for that. And I love jigsaw puzzles. I find them very relaxing, and I also can get a little addicted to them, if I'm completely honest, and just trying to solve it. And so about a month ago, I ordered this big board that rotates, kind of like a Lazy Susan, if you know what that is. And you can it'll hold up to 1,000-piece puzzle. And then it has 4 drawers, so you can put some of the pieces, even has a mat you can put on top of it. So I ordered that a while back because I thought, oh, that's awesome. And then, if I'm going to have company and I don't want my, big puzzle sitting on the coffee table, then I can put the mat on top of it, slide it under the sofa, and it's out of the way. So I do love a good jigsaw puzzle. And so that's kind of resurfaced in my life as a way, to really, I guess, participate in this analog revolution. More cooking from scratch. Recently, I love to cook. I've always loved to cook. But I've tried a couple of new things lately, like making my own creamer. So I've looked at a few different recipes, and, because I'm always struggling in that area, trying to find the right creamer that doesn't have, all the junk in it, and the additives and the gums. And so I'm always searching for that. And I try this and I try that. And so I've been exploring with making my own. And, when you make them, there's 1,000 different ways to do it. You can use all the different milk variations, whatever suits your palate, and all the different ways to sweeten it and flavor it. It's pretty fun. And so that's something that I have been doing as well, is making my own creamer. And I think I'm going to start exploring with making my own bread, because I'm also really picky about that. I either go to Central Market and get their made from scratch sourdough, because sourdough is my bread of preference, or I get the Izio brand, because it's just the plain ingredients. It doesn't, it's not made from enriched flour or any of that. So I've been thinking about trying to make my own bread. I ordered a cross stitching kit. That is something I've never done. I did learn how to crochet when I was a child with my grandmother, but I haven't done that in forever. But I've been a little interested in trying cross stitching. So I have a kit for that. And I do have a record player. I've had a record player for, I guess, about 3 years now. I love my record collection. Love playing the music. Why? I just love the sound. I love the way it sounds. I don't know. Maybe it's nostalgic for me, but I love, and it's something you can kind of collect with the records. And I have a very diverse music taste. So, I can order and buy different albums, and I can support small business in that way, because there's quite a few little shops around Fort Worth that I can go and purchase albums. So that's another way that I'm really embracing this analog culture, and a pottery class. So the Friday before last, Maddie, my oldest daughter, and I took a pottery class together. One, it was amazing because I love her so much and we always have fun together. But two, I had been thinking about that and always thought it was so cool, how they sit there with the wheel and mold it and shape it with their hands. So I threw it out to her to see if she was interested. And she was like, oh my gosh, Mom, I would love to. So she and I took a pottery wheel class. That was amazing. And so I'd really like to explore in that area a little bit more. I do love working with my hands and the creativity involved with trying to create what you would like. So all this new analog shift is just amazing to me. I love it. And it definitely is real to me and personal to me. I love the ability to be able to slow down and do some other things. And as I said before, all of this is not to say, we toss our phone out the window. It doesn't even make sense, right? But it's just an opportunity to pause and think about it, and maybe you could find some ways that you would like to add more analog into your life. Maybe you already have been. I'd love for you to, comment and tell me some ways that you have been incorporating more analog into your own life. I would love to hear some of those ideas because, again, this really resonates with me and it really fits with where I am in my life right now. Just the slowing down, I spend a lot of time by myself too. And so, a lot of these things are things that I can do on my own. So I'm pretty excited about this shift, this, kind of cultural shift that's going on, because I don't see anything but positive coming out of that. And I love that a lot of the push in this movement is coming from the younger generations. That a lot of them are tapped out. A lot of them are just so fatigued from the constant, digital connection that they're always making. And, they are always online. And a lot of them, they've grown up their whole life that way. And I love seeing a little bit of a pushback against all of that. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion today. I was super excited to do this one. It resonates with me, but I love that our younger generation is also connecting with it. And, I think that more and more people are just craving more tangible experiences, things they can hold and touch, and things that don't notify you, the constant notifications. And, maybe the most interesting part of all of this is that it is growing, and that after 2 decades or so of hyper connection, maybe we're realizing that convenience doesn't always equal fulfillment. Just something to think about and ponder today. And I guess I need to wrap this up. And if you have enjoyed today's podcast, please take a few minutes to comment and download the episode. Also, if you can think of at least one person that you think would enjoy our wine conversations, please share this podcast with them. It would mean so much to me. And I want to thank you as always for joining me as we sipped, savored, and reflected on this beautiful life that we've been given. And until next time, friends, cheers.